How's the Detroit Sports Podcast going?
Hey, everybody, this is Freddie Cohen of ESPN Radio. When I'm not talking about breaking news or breaking news on ESPN Radio, I'm always a fan and listen to the Detroit Sports Podcast, and so should you.
This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Thanks, everybody, for downloading another episode on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. I am the Doc, John Macaroon. Joining me, my cousin, Adam, the Jock Strozinski. What's up, cuz?
I'm in studio, baby. I'm here.
You told me you were struggling, man, being back in Detroit.
Yeah.
Why? The weather's been nicer, back in the D, great sports. You have found a fondness for South Bend?
Yeah, you know what? It's a different mindset there, right? It's much slower paced. And this is the one thing I love about going on vacation, why I love going on vacation like out of the country, because it's so much like it's just a slower pace. There's not, rush here, rush there, all around. It's a slower pace there. So I find that my mind's a little bit more at ease. Here in the city, man, I'm like, you know me, I'm always ready to just explode. Like, I'm always on like a 9, ready to bubble up to a 12. There, dude, I was easy breezy. I was on a 5 all the time. I wasn't ready to sit there and lose my mind and kill somebody, except on Twitter when the Lions were drafting. I don't know if you got to sit there and see me just unravel on Twitter because trolls. We'll just say trolls.
I know there are probably hundreds and hundreds of people that could sit in that chair and do a better job than you, but I'm still happy that you're back and ready to spit fire regarding the draft. Look, you're my guy. You're part of the team. I don't want anybody else, and we'll get a chance to get your rebuttal to those that messaged you and said that you are, it's totally unfounded that you would have a skeptical view of Bob Quinn. And it's true. I think right now, who has the highest who would be in most favor of the fans? It's Bob Quinn. I think that the fans in town are giving him a significant amount of the benefit of the doubt. And look, I know the first pick was something that we're going to talk about, and maybe you could scrutinize and things like that across the board. Among the 6 picks, I said I was happy with 50%, and we're going to get into it real quickly. But I got to let you know, yes, I got on television, baby.
You
Took it from the basement to the
Congratulations.
television, and it was scary too because I promoted it. I had a feeling we'd be part of it, but you still have that nervousness, like, well, if they cut me out. My mom's in Chicago, and she's visiting my cousin, and he's got 3 kids, and I just felt like, you know what, that end scene was really a big part of that show. I think a lot was going to be, invested and was going to air. So I said, look, guys, watch it. I think I'm going to be part of it. And the funny thing about Middle Eastern folk is they're not patient. So the first segment is about boxing. The second segment is about baseball. And of course, they're sending me messages. All of them are like, where are you? We haven't seen you yet. And I'm like, wait, just relax. I think I'm going to be in the end scene and things like that. And they finally go to it. They show the ticket. They show a couple calls. I was on a call, but they didn't air that part. And then right there in the third segment, bam, they aired the church scene, and I'm all up in it. So if you look and you see very superstitious A&E sports, holy cow, me and Vito, our signs were there. People were laughing at me because I was excited during the exorcism and breaking the curse, and my family was dying laughing, sending me videos and snaps of like, dude, you were into it. I'm like, yeah, I was into it. I was like, look, I wanted to be part of it. I wanted to break the curse, and even though it aired a year later, technically, the curse is broken. I believe it. This year, I'm calling it. Lions, second playoff win this year. The curse is broken. We did it. The curse is broken.
How much cornbread you eat this morning?
I went to the
gallons of Kool-Aid.
If you watch that ceremony, I was rejuvenated by all the passionate fans that went there. Me and Vito with the signs. We had a good time. George Lopez did his part to, he went down to Old Tiger Stadium, took the dirt with Chaldean Martin, and we burnt it, baby. It's happening. The Lions curse is over. We're going to the playoffs this year, and we are winning a playoff game. Probably just one. Can't say like others that were going back to, winning multiple games. Hell no.
I love how you hedged your bet.
We're not winning the Super Bowl. Come on now.
The curse is broken, baby. We're winning One playoff game.
That
one?
would be an 100% improvement.
one.
2 playoff wins since 1957. Dude, that's so bad if you just look at the history. Just 1 playoff win, dude. It's bad. But it was time. We were all excited. I think part of the reason why a lot of fans, myself included, you, when you wait 2.5 hours, you're waiting with bated breath. Who are they going to take? Are they going to make a trade? And the way the board kind of, played out.
It fell perfectly for them.
It helped out that you could have had a myriad of picks that would have helped the Lions. And so the pick comes in, and it's Frank Ragnow. And I think everybody kind of had that moment of like, who? Exactly. And you waited all that time. We had a feeling. We talked about it, so it wasn't totally out of left field.
What did I say? What did I say last week? I said last week, if they take a lineman, an offensive lineman, I'm going to lose my shit. And I lost my shit. I was so upset.
How did you react when the news was announced? It kind of sprinkled a little early on Twitter, and then my tweet was just simple, an N with 50 zeros. No, I just was like an offensive lineman, and I'll talk about my thoughts about it, not specific to the player, but specific to what we now know basically is the philosophy of the Detroit Lions. But how did you react? What are you feeling now regarding the Detroit Lions' first selection, number 20, center, Arkansas, Frank Ragnow?
So initially, I was really, really upset. I wanted to throw my phone through my TV. I was watching the draft unfold with my stepdad. My wife was trying to show me some furniture for the new apartment, and I was not into whatever she was talking about. She's like, here, look at this. I'm like, no, not right now. Like, this is important to me. Just leave me alone. And my mom's over there like, why are you all bent out of shape and upset? I was furious, man. I was so damn upset. And the thing is, I had my parents in town. We sat there, took them out to eat, and I was watching the draft unfold at a restaurant, got in the car, turned it on the radio, listened to it. I think we had to go pick something up for my wife for the apartment. I'm watching it on my phone. Like, I'm invested in this. Like, I am so invested. Any way I can get it, I'm either watching or I'm listening to it. And I'm just following along, and I'm seeing the guys go, and I'm like, all right, cool. Even better. All right, this is setting up perfect for the Lions. They can't screw this up. Like, you can't mess this up. And then 20 comes. And you had sent a tweet out with me included in it before you had announced, and I got really excited. And I think it's just because I misread what you had sent me. And I looked at my stepdad. I was like, oh my God, they got somebody good. They got somebody good. And then you tweeted just as I always watch the draft on NFL Network. I like what they do much better.
Yes, me too.
So I'm watching on NFL Network, and they announce Frank Ragnow. And I was like,
why?
What? Like, it was like getting punched in the nuts. Honestly, it was like getting punched in the balls. And I was like, how the hell? And then all of a sudden, dude, I just felt my blood pressure like just triple.
Life sucks.
Yes, it does. I felt my face get red. I was furious. I was gripping my phone so tight, I almost broke it with my hand, dude. I was so mad. And I was like, why are you so upset right now? This is the Lions. This is what they do. They don't ever take the guy that you want. You've had better drafts since doing this podcast than the Lions have. Why are you so bent out of shape right now? And I couldn't help it, man. Like, it probably won't ever help me get a job. Like, if you go and look at my Twitter from that night, if I applied for a position anywhere in media, no, because I was so furious. It was a whole bunch of WTFs. What the shit? It was a whole bunch of bad. It was bad. I had my flamethrower on, and I was ready to burn villages with women, children, and old men in it. I didn't care what you were, what it was. It didn't matter. I was ready to take it all down because I was so pissed.
Lion fan out there initially was angry, but as people talked about it and they looked at Pro Football Focus, which I guess many people do respect significantly, they rated him as one of the best centers of all time in terms of their rating. So and then the narrative came out.
How much do you buy into Pro Football Focus, though?
I don't look at them that much.
If you listen to Pro Football Focus, I mean, there are guys, when you just do the eyeball test, they're really good. And Pro Football Focus is like, oh no, they're scum of the earth. So it's like,
I'm skeptical because TJ Lang went on the radio and said they're garbage, and they rated him pretty good. So I think football players aren't really fond of it. But I look at the eye test, but I also look at numbers.
I don't understand their schematics and what formula they use to grade players, because they kill. Like Le'Veon Bell. How are you going to tell me that Le'Veon Bell's not a good running back? Do you know what I'm saying? And they'll have some kind of crazy inane stat where Le'Veon Bell's like 30th in the league for whatever this rushing stat is. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like the best damn back in football right now.
The thing that I guess I'll comment on is the fact that, for me, it's my preference. I think Frank Ragnow has a chance in a good system with a rebuilt offensive line, can be successful. And then you go in the second round and you trade up, you get Kerryon Johnson, running back from Auburn. So then it signifies that that was the plan. And my only beef with it is I wanted the Lions to have a plan, but for me and my preference as a sports fan and as a guy that watches football, I think, and I spoke about it earlier this week as well, my thinking is the easier path for the Lions to make bold moves and to have better playoff success is building a solid defense. So they've decided, they've looked across the landscape, they've invested heavily in Matthew Stafford, and you know my comments and thoughts about that. But with that, when you invest that much, we should know that they're going to put efforts into fixing the running game. They're going to give him every single opportunity to be successful. So that's the only thing I disagree with, is I'm more of a guy that says, look, you got a defensive coach, go out there and bring in the likes of a defensive end like Harold Landry, or solidify the linebacking core and get a solid outside linebacker like a Rashaan Evans. Go out there. You had a myriad of opportunities to pick and solidify the defensive line in this draft, and you didn't do it. So fine. I'm still giving Bob Quinn the benefit of the doubt. I was happy with 50% of the picks of the 6, but I'm just disappointed because I want really a team that is solid on defense. I think I've was never happier than a few seasons back when the Lions had the second best defense and they were pressuring the quarterback, turnovers galore, running the ball in the end zone. That excited me. It's great, I know, for entertainment value, putting asses in the seats, having the Lions be successful with Matthew Stafford running the ball. I mean, obviously, anybody that watched the Pittsburgh game and it was 3.5 yards, you couldn't get it. You had several opportunities where you were competing with Pittsburgh. You're getting into the red zone, getting to opportunities to score the ball, and you ended up and settled for a field goal. So, for me, my disappointment just lies in the fact that the philosophy now is let's build a running game that is suitable for Matthew Stafford, and that's what they invested 2 picks early on, and even in a 7th-round pick, they got a fullback. So you know they have that plan. That was the things that were discussed in the room. It's just, for me, I would have liked in the draft for the Lions to solidify that defense. And they still can in free agency and things like that. In training camp, when players get cut, there's opportunities to get guys in here, but they're more going to be like role players or guys that are going to have secondary roles. In the draft is where you get the meat and the heart of your team. Unfortunately, with Matthew Stafford in this era, the next 5 years, they're looking at the offense, and it's a gamble. I think it's a gamble, and one where if they would have focused on the defense, I would say their odds are increased that they're likely to have more success in the playoffs. But I'm not dying on a hill on my thought. I think that there's a chance for Stafford to have success. The ultimate success, you can be skeptical.
Now, I agree with you on what you're saying as far as them investing in the offense. What I really think the thing is, it wasn't an offense versus defense. I think they looked at their defense, and Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia were like, you know what? If it was healthy, if Ziggy Ansah didn't have the ankle issue, if Kerry Hyder didn't have the ACL, if this, that, and the other thing, if in buts, we would have had a really good defense. I think what they did was they looked at those first couple weeks where they were able to stop the run with Haloti Ngata. You know, they were top 5 in the league at stopping the run in the first 5 weeks, and I think they're like, this is our defense. That's what we have. Now, if we can add a few pieces here or there, it's going to be that much better. That's all fine and good. But you had a few injuries, and that defense went from being a top 5 defense in the league to now being, what? It was a bottom 5 defense when it was all said and done. So why not add pieces, add guys who are going to make an impact there and really help beef that up? Now, I get it. You want to help solidify that offensive line. And Frank Ragnow, by all accounts, he's a great center, or he's going to be a great center. The guy projects to be awesome at the position. It allows Graham Glasgow to move over, play guard, and be good. You still have Joe Dahl, who can be a rotational player. In the 5th round, you come back and you draft Terrell Crosby, who might be the steal of this draft. This is a guy who was projected to go in the first 2 rounds, and he fell to you in the 5th. Your offensive line should be set, realistically, with the Frank Ragnow pick. And your run game should be set with the addition of Kerryon Johnson. Kerryon Johnson, I've got some question marks on, but I'm not going to kill that pick. I think it was a decent pick. You moved, you recognized what you wanted, and you did what it took to go get him so nobody else could get him. And I applaud that. I think what Bob Quinn did in this draft was he showed that he had certain guys that he wanted, and it didn't matter what it was going to cost. He was going to go get those guys. I don't like you giving up a third-round pick next year to go get a guy out of Alabama who was inconsistent at best, who couldn't get the most out of his play by a guy like Nick Saban, by all regards the best coach in all of college football. But you're going to trade next year's third-round pick to go get this cat in the fourth round? It doesn't seem like good value to me. But Bob Quinn recognizes this is the guy that I want. And I sat there in this morning. I got to produce Matt Shepard's show, and Bob Quinn was on. And after listening to Bob Quinn, I'm like, all right, cool. I feel much more at ease with the pick of hand in the fourth round because, like Bob Quinn said, he's a guy who can play. He can play basically every position on the defensive line. If you need him to play tackle, he can play tackle. If you need him to edge rush, he can edge rush. What I think we learned about this team going forward is this team is going to run more of a three-down lineman front. They're going to rotate guys in and out. It's going to be a defense that is – it's going to be whatever we can do to stop your offense. So if we've got to put 3 guys up on the line, if we've got to put 5 guys up on the line, we're going to do it. It's not going to be a defense where we run a 4-3, we run a 3-4, and that's all we do. No. It's going to be what is going to put us in the best position to take away whatever it is that you do best. It's exactly what New England does, and I think that's a good thing. All that being said, with that first round pick, I wanted you to add pieces to that defense to make it better. I want the best defense. We've seen it time and time again. You can win a championship with a defense. You don't need an offense. You don't necessarily need a running game. You can win it with a defense, and that's what I wanted to see. Now the offense is taken care of. I think next year's draft, you got to start looking at adding pieces to that defense.
What was the one pick that you loved and one pick that you hated?
I hated the round 3 draft of Tracy Walker.
Everybody was like, what the hell?
I just didn't understand it.
And what puts pressure on Walker is that, when they go to the draft room, Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia freaked out like they got somebody. So it's going to put a lot of pressure on the dude, and there's a high chance that's not going to be successful.
Absolutely. And I think, like I said before, the steal of the draft is in the 5th round. Terrell Crosby, the guard, possibly offensive tackle. This is a guy who was projected to go in the first 2 rounds. He can play basically every single position along the line. He's a little bit soft, upper body. You can get that by working out. You know what I'm saying? Eat right. I think he'll be fine.
Now, we have an opportunity to talk to Chris Burke from The Athletic. We're going to dial him up, get his insights. After our talk with Chris, we're going to talk about the fan reaction and some people that gave you grief, and then we'll finish the podcast with a round of The Doctor is in Session. Stay with us. Chris Burke, right after this.
Oh, you didn't know? Your ass better call somebody!
On the phone with us right now he's the man at The Athletic. I don't care what anybody says. If you read theathletic.com, he's the guy. It's Chris Burke. You can follow him on Twitter at Chris Burke NFL. Chris, what's going on, buddy?
Hey, thanks for having me. Thanks for that intro. I appreciate it.
Oh, man, honestly, it's the truth. You do great work over there. Everybody, you need to go check out his work at theathletic.com. We wanted to bring you on. We wanted to talk Lions draft with you. And I think the best way to start this off is, what did you make of this Lions draft?
I thought it was a solid draft. I mean, I think certainly those first 2 picks, if the offense doesn't get a boost from those first 2 picks, then you got to look at who's calling the plays and some of the other things that are going on there. Because I think Ragnow is a guy that you can drop in and expect him to be your starter up front for 5-10 years. I think Kerryon Johnson's a really good running back. So that's a big boost for the offense. I think it was a solid draft overall. It left a couple holes on defense for sure that either guys have to step up and fill those spots in the coming weeks, or they need to go make another move or 2 here somewhere. But overall, I thought Bob Quinn had a decent weekend and picked up some guys that should help right away.
Why do you think a certain segment of the fans were maybe a little bit disappointed in the pick in getting a first-round center?
Well, I mean, it's never that sexy of a pick to go get an interior offensive lineman in that high in the draft. I think on value, the value on those guys has shifted the last few years because we've seen so many good interior defensive linemen come into the league that there's more of a premium now on centers and guards. And certainly we saw right after Ragnow, there was a little bit of a run, including right at 21 there. So, but I understand the frustration because I think, you look at they went into the weekend with 4 of their 5 offensive line positions more or less set, or at least 4 of their 5 starters more or less set. And they had some big needs on defense, and there were, at least 1 or 2 guys there at 20 that could have helped in the pass rush, could have helped maybe at linebacker. So I understand the frustration and going Ragnow over a couple of the other guys that were there. But like I said, I think it's a solid pick. I think once the line gets settled here and Ragnow takes his place there, I think people probably like the pick more once the regular season rolls around than maybe they did, on Thursday night.
As you were sitting there on Thursday night and it's 9:30, 10 o'clock, and the Lions are coming up to being on the clock, and then they're on the clock, then the announcement's made that it's Ragnow. How surprised were you of that pick at that time?
I wasn't surprised that they went offensive line. I was pretty shocked by who it was because there'd been, as they admitted and as Ragnow admitted, there hadn't been really any contact between those two sides since the combine. And so, we spend however many weeks it is trying to connect the dots on, guys that they met with and guys that they've had in for visits and who fits where. And his name hadn't really come up. I think on value, you saw there were teams that were probably interested in him around there. I don't think, I'm not sure he would have gotten past the next pick at Cincinnati. So I think that was about the range where if you're going to take him, you had to take him. But other than him being a guy that I knew could go in round 1 and was at sort of a position of need, I didn't necessarily have him right at the top of the list just because we hadn't heard anything about him for so long.
Overall, what do you think the Lions' best pick was in this draft?
I think the Ragnow pick will play out. On value, it's probably Tyrell Crosby. In terms of what they needed, in terms of the guy that might be the biggest key for them, I think it's probably Deshaun Hand, just because, you're giving up a round 3 pick next year to go get him, which isn't exactly a cheap price. That's one that anytime you give something up on the first or second day, it's certainly, paying a premium. But they had to address their front 7. They had to find some more bodies up there that could make an impact. He was really the only guy they went out and got other than, who might trickle through here as undrafted free agents. So I think it was a necessary pick when he was on the board. He certainly fits what Matt Patricia would like to do up front and sort of that call for versatility and all that. So I think it's a good pick for them. Again, they gave up a lot to go get him, but that's the one you kind of circle and say, if this pays off, then this draft class probably looks a lot better, in a year or two than maybe it did on Sunday night.
Chris Burke from The Athletic. If you want to go and subscribe and save 20%, go check out theathletic.com/DSP. Now, the pick that really kind of surprised everybody and might put undue pressure is the pick of Tracy Walker. Now, you've seen the video. Everybody saw it of Bob Quinn, Matt Patricia being really excited at the pick. What do you make of that pick, and what are the chances of Tracy Walker being successful with the Lions?
Yeah, it was an interesting one. And again, it was just one that was kind of not even necessarily that he was off the radar, but I think, to hear a player come out and say, I was expecting to go on, round 5 and the Lions took him round 3. That's not really something that you hear a whole lot. So kind of curious circumstances. The Lions said that there were other teams interested. We don't know for sure. That might be true. A little harder to verify with a guy like that than it is with a guy like Ragnow. So, in terms of talent, again, I think he fits. Really versatile guy, can play some corner, can play some safety, aggressive down in the box. I think he, you go back and watch his college tape and you certainly understand why they were interested in him. He's, kind of tall and lanky with good range and doesn't mind getting dirty, making plays. So certainly he fits with what they want to do. And with the amount of safeties that, he likes to roll 3 safeties and not a lot of depth necessarily behind Quinn, Tavon Wilson, and Diggs, if we're assuming Diggs is still a safety. So, again, you kind of understand the thought process, but that was a spot where I think everyone was kind of expecting him to do something up front on defense. And, again, you get back it up with the hand pick, so I think it helps a little. But, yeah, that's one where you kind of will keep an eye on and see if it pays off, because it was certainly a gamble by Bob Quinn. And if it doesn't work, you're kind of throwing away a 3rd-round pick. So we'll see. I don't think he gets on the field a ton, maybe other than special teams or if there's an injury this rookie season.
Now, Chris, take us in the room and kind of lift the curtain a little bit. Were you part of the triumvirate that was like, who is this guy? Who's Tracy Walker? And what are they doing? And were you scrambling to find any info you could find about him?
Well, I had to scramble a little to go back. I had watched him. I try to watch at least all the guys who go to the Shrine Game and the Senior Bowl, so I knew, I had a baseline knowledge of him. Again, he wasn't really a guy that I was thinking the Lions were going to jump on there. You get into day 3 and everything's kind of wide open. You never really know it was going to be their day 3, but day 2, I wasn't. It was never a name that crossed my mind, and like I said, I sort of had some notes on him just from having gone to the Shrine Game and sort of being aware of him, but it wasn't like I was thinking, oh, that's exactly who I was planning on the Lions having here. So, I sort of had a list of names of guys that were available there, and like I said, I think everyone was kind of expecting him to go front 7 somewhere.
Now, Chris, I'm curious after this draft. Okay, so now you have Matthew Stafford. Obviously, you can debate, how you view him, whether he's a top 5 or top 10 quarterback. But obviously, you have a quarterback that the Lions believe in, that he can take this team to levels of success that they've never seen. But now you've added an offensive lineman and a running back, so you obviously assume that the Lions are going to run the ball more. Going into 2018, what's a realistic way for this offense to perform? Do you say that, we just obviously need to have a consistent runner to get 100 yards? Or do you say, at the end of the day, it might still be a passing league and we still got to count on Matthew Stafford? So I sit here and I'm just kind of curious, what do you think is going to be a healthy balance with this offense with what you saw in the 2018 draft?
Yeah, well, I think for starters, given all the talent that they have and especially everything that's coming back, if they're not a top 10 offense, then that's a serious issue. And then again, I have to try to go back and look at what's going on there because all the pieces are there. Like you said, Stafford is at least a borderline elite quarterback in this league, certainly right on that top 10 cusp. And that, when he plays really well, I think you can argue he's even higher than that. So it's all there for them to be a top 10 offense. In terms of what they'll be, kind of go back to what Matt Patricia said from the moment he got here, which is, the biggest thing that they wanted to do was create a depth chart where they had a good matchup every week. So you weren't locked into, well, if we're not able to protect Stafford, or if Stafford's having an off game, or if the cornerback, the secondary is really good on the other side, then you're just kind of ramming your head into a wall because all you can do is throw the football. And now you look at what they have, and I think there's going to be some games, certainly, and we saw this with the Patriots, where maybe the front 7 that they're facing isn't all that good, and maybe they feel like they have an advantage. And you see a game where, Blunt and Kerryon Johnson combined for 40 carries, and Stafford's just throwing on, third down or maybe taking a shot off play action every once in a while, and he throws the ball 20, 25 times. I think that's certainly what they would like to have in their pocket to go to once or twice. Overall, it's still an offense based on the passing attack. That's still going to be the primary focus, but I do think that they have more flexibility in terms of what they can do now.
Did it surprise you that this team traded the 2018 4th-round pick and a 2019 3rd-round pick after Bob Quinn stated that they wanted to acquire more picks? And as a Lions fan, should that make you feel warm and fuzzy inside that you now have a general manager who identifies talent and has no problem going out there and getting the guys that he absolutely wants?
Yeah, of all the surprises on draft weekend for the Lions, that was the biggest for me. It was that they didn't make any moves at any point to acquire additional picks. They started with 6. They had to move around a little bit. Like you said, giving up that 3rd rounder next year to get back into the 4th round, but they never picked up extra picks, and it was a deep draft. So I think the expectation was they might try to get to, 7, 8 selections. So that maybe the biggest surprise for me, that we didn't see that type of action. But to your second point, yeah, I do think it's a good sign that Bob Quinn was aggressive, because he spent the first 2 years as GM here sort of laying the groundwork. This was a big draft for him to try and tweak it to where they felt like they can make the playoffs. They were a playoff team, felt like they had what Matt Patricia needed to be successful in his first year. And yeah, he saw Kerryon Johnson out there, went and got him. He saw Deshaun Hand out there, went and got him. And I don't think that was just sort of, off the cuff wheeling and dealing. I think it was, we have these 2 guys we really like. They might not be available to us later, and I think they really fill holes. So, yeah, if you trust Bob Quinn, I think it was a very good draft for him. But again, you got to wait and see how this all plays out. If they both flop, then you're getting to next year and regretting not having that 3rd rounder.
On the phone with us right now is Chris Burke from theathletic.com. You can follow Chris on Twitter at Chris Burke NFL. Chris, we'll get you out of here on this, and it's kind of a 2-part question. this is about guys that the Lions didn't draft and just kind of trying to gauge where they were at on, I guess, on their big board. Going into the draft, was there any inkling that Darius Geis was so immature and seemingly a loose cannon? And at some point, do you believe Mo Hurst was completely removed from the Lions draft board after his heart issue was discovered, or was there a point where they would have took a flyer on him and grabbed him?
I think Geis was, I think from just what you can kind of surmise from them going up to get Kerryon Johnson, and then what Bob Quinn said afterward when he was asked about Geis and said, there were just some things that, teams that had worries about. And he didn't specifically say that the Lions had kind of crossed him out, but, if you kind of read between the lines there, I think that they maybe felt Geis was too much of a risk. And I think they really liked Kerryon Johnson. Maybe if they don't get Kerryon Johnson in round 2, they get a little later, Geis is still sitting there. Maybe they take a chance there, but I think at the very least they had tweaked their board and obviously moved Kerryon Johnson and probably one or two other running backs at minimum above Geis. And then Hurst, I think for them it was a combination of the medicals and then just kind of the fit in Matt Patricia's scheme, whether it was fair or not, how they viewed Maurice Hurst. I think he's going to come in and pretty much every team in the league saw him as a 3 technique, as a guy who's just going to, penetrate a lot and be playing upfield, try to get into the backfield. And I think we saw with the pick for Deshaun Hand, the Lions wanted to go, if they were going to take an interior defensive lineman, they wanted to go someone who was a little bigger, someone who maybe could play over the nose, maybe kick out and play some 5-tech. And I think Maurice Hurst can do some of those things, but maybe a little more natural fit for Deshaun Hand. So I don't know that I can't verify that they medically took him off the board, but I think certainly it was probably a concern for them. And he's someone that they had done really extensive work on over the course of the draft process. So if they didn't take him in those first, 4.5 rounds, there obviously was a reason for it, because I think on talent, you could have made the case for him. Even if you were to push him out of round 1 or round 2, I think by round 3, round 4, you certainly could have made the case for him. So I've just assumed between fit and health, there was too much for them to be concerned about.
Chris Burke, kind enough to break down the draft for the Detroit Lions. We greatly appreciate it. And look, if you're not subscribed to The Athletic, you are missing out. Chris did a lot of work, several mock drafts, several scenarios that we broke down even on this podcast. So definitely go to theathletic.com/DSP and subscribe to a great website. Chris is doing great work. The team is doing great work. And we always enjoy the chance to talk to the crew from The Athletic. Chris, thank you so much. We look forward to our future chats in training camp and in the preseason, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me again. I appreciate it, guys.
Good stuff there from Chris Burke, man. He's got a lot of insight. Like you said, we broke down several of his scenarios and things like that. It was a fun opportunity to talk with him, and kind of in line with what we were thinking in terms of everybody was surprised by Tracy Walker. But I want to ask you this. Overall, we're not going to do grades because obviously we haven't seen him on the field yet. Injuries, things like that. How to, scheme fit, how much opportunity they're going to get. Most people are in agreement that it takes a couple of years to fully evaluate. But we got a job to do. We got a task that we got to kind of break it down. Overall, do you see this draft class being, significant contributors to the Detroit Lions as they go forward? Because most important, that's all fans want. That's all we care about is, look, can you get a crop of guys? Can you get at least 3, 4, 5 guys? Come in there, don't cause trouble, be significant contributors on this team, have the opportunity to contribute, and I'm hoping that maybe in the next coming years, in 2 or 3 drafts, maybe we get a guy like a Deshaun Hand or a Kerryon Johnson where he breaks out and others that are drafted, other organizations can feel what it's like for the Lions or other Detroit fans where someone else breaks out. Do you see that for the Lions? Do you see this class at least being contributors on a team that can make a playoff push? Do you see, Kerryon Johnson running down deep for a touchdown late in a playoff push and things like that versus Green Bay week 17? Do you see, a fullback mashing the defenders there, helping Kerryon Johnson do his thing? Do you see that, or are you still skeptical a week after the draft?
No, I think at this point, if you look at it in unbiased eyes here, right? I know I was really hard on this draft when it was going on. I've taken a week, I've kind of took a step back, and just because they don't take the guys that I want doesn't mean that I can't fairly evaluate this, right? I'd have done things differently, and that's me. I think going into this season, Frank Ragnow will be your starting center. All right, so he's going to make an immediate impact. Kerryon Johnson should be your starting running back. I have some injury concerns with him because he had a couple shoulder issues. He had an ankle issue. He had some rib issues. I believe he had it was a hand issue. So he's had some injuries, and that's been the one thing that's kind of derailed parts of his career when he was at Auburn, were just injuries. So if he can stay healthy, he should be your starting running back. As far as Deshaun Hand goes, he should be a rotational guy who's going to put pressure on the quarterback and make an impact on that defensive line. Terrell Crosby, I think, is a guy who is going to be a rotational player. He will either get in at guard or he will get in at tackle. If the Lions' offensive line has issues like it had last year, I think this year you could feel much more comfortable about it because you have a guy like Crosby who can then fill in and do some work for you. So yeah, I think those guys specifically will get in and will make an immediate difference. Nick Baldwin, the fullback, apparently we're going back to a fullback. You just got rid of your fullback last year, so why not waste a 7th-round pick on it? Whatever. Apparently we're going back to a fullback. So yeah, he's your only fullback on this roster. He should make an impact. I'm not expecting this guy to carry the rock, 10, 15 times a game, but I'm expecting him to go out there and help pass block. I'm expecting him to sit there and help clear the way. So yeah, I mean, my one question, and because I don't know what you're going to get with him. I mean, how many Louisiana Lafayette games do you watch? It's Tracy Walker. I'm not sure what you're going to get. I know he's a guy who's versatile. I know he's a guy who can tackle. I know he's a guy who can sit there and play some pass coverage. I don't know what you're going to get with that pick, and I feel like that's the one spot where the Lions could have done something totally different to really help this team. And that's why I say it kind of with a giggle and a laugh in my voice, because I don't know what we're going to get, but they seem really high on him, and they want him. And the one thing I can take out of this draft, and I think you can agree with me on this, it seems like they believe a lot in whatever Matt Patricia is going to do, scheme-wise. They believe a lot in the pieces that they got and how those fit into whatever Matt Patricia foresees for this defense. So if you're a Lions fan, that should make you feel pretty good. You should feel happy that your head coach, your general manager are on the same page. And they went out and they targeted guys that they want and that they see fit to get whatever it is done that they are looking to accomplish. All that being said, it doesn't have to necessarily make me feel good and doesn't have to make you feel good. And if I want to, I will lose my crap on Twitter when they draft a center at 20 because that's not what what I wanted them to do. I wanted them to do something different.
Which one player do you wish was a Detroit Lion that did not get drafted? I know we've talked about, and maybe we'll do a special piece on DetroitSportsPodcast.com where you maybe even redraft for the Detroit Lions, but who did you wish?
I got a redraft right here if you want it, bro.
Who do you wish? What? No, be specific. One player that you think, man, it's itching, it's burning you, it's making you feel like, man, I think we missed out on a guy that could be even better than a guy we got. Who is it? Who's burning you? Who's making you go, man, he went somewhere else. He's not a Lion. I'm upset.
Harrison Phillips went to Buffalo, defensive tackle. He's a guy from Stanford who he had a first-round grade on him and was a guy who you could have got in the 3rd round, and you could have got him late in the 3rd round. You didn't have to sit there and worry about having to move up or worry about anything. He would have fell to you. That's the one guy. So from now until the end of time, Tracy Walker will be compared to Harrison Phillips. And it's just something that I think we do, right? I mean, you can compare Frank Ragnow's career to if you wanted Harold Landry or if you wanted Rashad Evans. You can compare those guys and kind of see how their careers evolve. And if Frank Ragnow becomes an all-pro and he becomes a Pro Bowler and Rashad Evans either fizzles out or doesn't do anything, or Harold Landry makes, I don't know, the Super Bowl winning tackle or safety in whatever Super Bowl it is. I mean, you can compare these things then. But Harrison Phillips was the guy that I wanted. I felt like he'd have beefed up that defensive line. He'd have been a guy who'd have made immediate impact. He'd have came in. He'd have been value. Again, a guy who had a 1st-round grade you could have gotten the 3rd round. There were a lot of guys like that this year. I thought it was really weird because, again, we talked about Mo Hurst with Chris. And Mo Hurst was a guy who had a first, early 2nd-round grade, and he fell to the 5th round. I mean, Oakland got a steal there as long as he can remain healthy. And this is the big caveat. As long as his heart doesn't cause an issue. And it sounds like Harvard doctors and Michigan doctors have given him the all go, the A-OK. But, you know, with him, it might have, according to Chris, it might have just been the way he played. It wasn't what the Lions were looking to do. They wanted a guy a little bit more versatile, like Hand. Okay, cool. You know, it's what it was. But Harrison Phillips was my guy. Did you have a guy that you sit there and you look at and you're like, this was the guy I wanted them to get, and they blew it?
Man, you know, overall, I felt like when I graded this out and I said, okay, I'm happy with 50% of the picks. Obviously, you know, the third round pick has everyone scratching their head. Looking at it, I could have taken a flyer, because when you have a guy like a Mo Hurst there and people are talking about him like, you know what, given the fact that he was rated maybe third overall in terms of talent, you could have taken him in the third, fourth round and had an opportunity to maybe get the steal of the entire draft. Now, it is a huge risk when you got a guy with a heart condition. But remember, he's played with this before. He played through college. You were able to go see him at his pro day. So a Mo Hurst, I think, with the Raiders has a strong chance, especially, you know, you also look at, you know, when you look at how you evaluate talent, you look at the numbers, you look at his personality and what they do, and you go to the interviews and things like that. But there's also value in a guy like, don't you think Mo Hurst now with the Raiders is going to bust his ass?
He's going to be mad.
You take him in the fourth round and you have an opportunity to get a guy who's hungry, who wants to show the world, like, dude, 100 picks ahead of me, and he's going to be hungry. He's going to do everything. And I want a guy like that, a guy that's going to be hungry. And I think that potentially, if there's a guy that could bust out and early success, it could be Mo Hurst, because of the fact that he's going to be hungry, and you add that little bit of jet fuel. He might not have been the player that he's probably going to turn out to be had he not fallen. And like we said Mo Hurst probably is going to have the worst draft experience, because he could have been that nervous, being that he was expected to be in the first round. He dropped, I think, to the fifth round.
Yep.
So I think you might have missed on a Mo Hurst. But you
want a guy with that Josh Rosen mentality. Josh Rosen, when he was drafted 11th overall, he was like, there were 10 mistakes ahead of me, and I'm going to go out and I'm going to prove it every single down that I'm on the field. You love that. You love that mentality. You want that mentality. And I think Mo Hurst's a guy who's going to bring that mentality to the Oakland Raiders. And again, like you said, man, you could have had him in round 4 if you really wanted him bad enough. And I think we would have all been okay with it. It'd have been great. And again, value. That's what we talk about, is value.
Yeah, exactly, value. And then you look at, obviously, the running back, because when you look at it, there are concerns. What do we always notice with the Lions drafts? They like guys that have a history of injuries.
That's right.
And something with his shoulders, ankles, things like that. He's an upright runner. So Kerryon Johnson's not a home run. He's a guy that's a solid, super solid pick with a great offensive line, can do some things. But remember, he doesn't maybe necessarily have that breakaway speed. So you might see him getting run down by some of these super quick safeties. But I think with a Kerryon Johnson, you have a guy that can be maybe an Arian Foster type runner that can just be super productive if you want to make some comparisons, or a guy that can be very productive. At the very least, we can ask for is, hey, give us 100 yards consistently 9 times out of 16. Give us some 1,200-yard seasons. Give us something. But in terms of flash, maybe if it was going to be somebody else, Darius Geis might be the guy. And maybe in terms of looking at a center, you had a couple other centers that were drafted by Cincinnati and that went later on, the Hernandez, the lineman, and things like that. But there are other centers like Daniels that might have been rated better. So I'm going to be peeking into others that were at similar positions to see how they do. But I think the two players that I wish maybe could have been Lions where they were drafted was maybe a Darius Geis and a Mo Hurst.
Ooh, you came around on Darius Geis there, huh?
Well, I think that
the second round, is that
exactly
why?
He fell.
Okay.
Not in the first round. I didn't want him in the first round.
You.
Not running back, because you could have got value.
I got you.
It's about value as well.
Let me read to you a little bit about Kerryon Johnson. All right, the former Auburn star running back and SEC Offensive Player of the Year has a laundry list of ailments and surgeries in his football career. This is what made me nervous, because I seen this article. I read this article. From a surgically repaired labrum and a right hand in high school at Madison Academy to another shoulder surgery after his freshman season at Auburn, where he also suffered an ankle injury in his sophomore year and a hamstring, shoulder, and rib injuries last season. He goes on to say, shoot, I thought I was going to have another shoulder surgery the way they were yanking on me sometimes, but they got to do their job. Johnson said at the NFL Combine on Thursday, when they were about investigating however many millions of dollars in you, those doctors have a job to do. They make sure they get it out of you. So, like you said, a laundry list of injuries for this guy. There should be some concern there. There absolutely should be some concern for you. It just, it's what it is. And you know what? A lot of a lot of my anger, my vitriol with this Lions draft, especially the first 2 days, it just came down to my own draft theory, right? I have my own way I would conduct a draft if I was ever to be put in the position of being a NFL GM. And to give you a little bit of insight, I don't believe, unless they're the number one overall guard and there's something incredibly special, I will never draft a guard. I will always take my chance and roll the dice on drafting a tackle and maybe drafting them late, because a tackle can usually move inside and play guard. If you do sometimes take a guard, a lot of times you don't need to take a center because a guard can just move over and play center. Do you know what I'm saying? It's just there's a lot of there's similarities in those roles, and sometimes you can get a guy who's a little bit versatile, and you can look for a guy who's versatile, and you can get them later in the draft. I always like taking offensive linemen later in the draft because you can plug and play them somewhere. You know, if they're going to be your left tackle for now until, I don't know, 10 years from now, like your Taylor Decker, okay, go ahead, draft him in the first round. You can draft him as high as, I don't know, 5 if you wanted to. If you believe that highly in them and they look like they grade out that way to you. You know, I don't necessarily like taking wide receivers in the first round. You're a Lions fan. You've lived it. You understand it. You can get value and you can get guys in the second, third, fourth round, fifth round. You can go get guys undrafted who are going to sit there and show up. Danny Amendola is the perfect example of a guy who's undrafted who's going to show up. As far as your defense goes, I think we're all on the same page here. You build through the trenches. You build a solid defense. You can win a championship there. You got to do it on the offensive side too. If there's a special running back, you can go get them in the first round if you want. You know, I thought the Giants had a really good draft. Me, myself. They got Saquon. They addressed their offensive line. Of course, you know, they're going to add defense. That's the staple of what the Giants do. It's one of those things. If you're drafting in the first 3 picks, we can even say first 5 picks, chances are you need a quarterback. So you're going to take your quarterback there, you know, unless they're absolute garbage. You know, this was a draft where I think you and I, we had a side conversation going on with everything that went on with Baker Mayfield. I love the guy. I think he's great. I think he's an awesome personality. I love his compete level. I don't know if he'd be the guy that I would hook my franchise to, though. You know, if it came down between him and Sam Darnold, I'm probably going to go Sam Darnold. No matter how much I absolutely love Baker Mayfield, and I love his personality, and I love the crotch grab, and I love the throat slash, I love all of that. I love that he's a few sandwiches short of a picnic basket. I'm still not going to attach my entire franchise to that with the number 1 overall draft. It's not what I'm doing. So it's just philosophy. It's my draft philosophy.
No doubt about it. Now, real quickly before we get to break, what do you make of the reaction that some people on Twitter had that follow us at Detroit Podcast? Because it was an interesting reaction. You know, we gave our comments, and at first we were negative, and then we got the vitriol of the fans that said, look, you guys are not experts. Do you guys watch film on Tracy
Walker? There are
Walker?
guys who can sit there and run laps around me at tracks about sports because I pretend to know sports.
Exactly. Well, here's the thing.
Or something like that. I don't know.
Then do a podcast. Give your opinion, because we're tasked with giving an immediate reaction. That's, I mean, no offense, but I really wish these guys that would message us like that would have like 5,000 followers instead of a couple hundred.
Right.
Because it makes the debate more fun.
Or 100 and whatever.
Exactly. But here's the thing we can say about it. Okay, we like that. We like the fact that people are engaged and they're heated. But at the same time, we're tasked with giving our opinions. Now, are we going to be right exactly all the time? No, but the reason why we've been successful is we've been right a significant amount of the time. And you got to remember, it's the Detroit Lions. So you think that just because we have Bob Quinn and he's got 3 draft class under his belt that now we're going to win the Super Bowl, that is being a fanatical. And you guys call us that. No, our job is to be skeptical and to say, well, what if he did this and what if he did that? Of course we give props. Frank Ragnow, congratulations on getting drafted. You know, you get all the props in the world for never giving up a sack in college. That's awesome. But you damn well know your first thought as a Lions fan is, of course, how many plays before he gives up a sack? 1, 3, 4? You know you're thinking that. Don't lie to yourself and just be all up Bob Quinn's ass because he's the general manager of the Lions. Don't lie to yourself. We all were joking around going, okay, which one of these players is going to get hurt? Because you guys are all thinking ideally, yeah, it's a great offensive line now, but they might get hurt. But our task is to give opinions and to break it down. So you can't come in and tell us, well, you can't talk about it for 2 years and really grade it. Bro, we tweet every single day, a couple hundred times a day. Do you know I don't, I'm not going to sit here and brag, but our tweets are seen 3 million times a month. You think that's because of the fact that I tweet out once a day?
Humble brag.
Yeah, 3 million times. Okay, I see it every month. It says our tweets are seen. Why? Because we build engagement, we build debates, we ask questions. So you think I'm asking a dumb question if I ask if Josh Rosen drops at number 20 and he's there, or any of the quarterbacks? Really, I made a kind of a little minor error there, but it was a good question anyway. If Josh Rosen would have fallen, he fell to 10. If he would have got there at number 20, that would have been interesting. So our task is to stir debate and things like that. So when you say, oh, you can't evaluate, we're going to evaluate everything. Sometimes we're going to ask logical questions. Sometimes we're going to ask illogical questions. Sometimes I just feel like asking a stupid question just to see what you guys are going to say to me. So, and in the end, we don't lose followers. Check us out. Since 2013, we've never lost like 10,000 followers in a day from anything we've said, because we build engagement. We talk to you. So don't come at us with that nonsense that don't talk about it. Give us your take and step off. That's all we need, and we'll either agree with you and don't agree with you. So if you call out Adam, you think that's really going to make yourself feel better? Adam's been on the radio, from a podcast to the radio. So you really think we're going to give that credit? He's part of a network that has, millions of downloads and has weaved our way and kicked our way in with basically no support. We've done it on our own. So you can't come at us with that. That's just ridiculous. And it makes me laugh because you don't have no valid right. You can come in and say, I think you're wrong. These guys are going to be good. That's all we need. Just leave out the other shit. We don't need to hear that.
Yeah, and look, what we do is entertain, right? This is what we do.
I do that. You just bring the noise.
I scream a lot. But that's our job, right? We entertain, and we do it through the guise of sport. We love sports. We talk about sports. People aren't going to press the download button if they don't find what we're saying either A, interesting, B, funny, or C, provocative. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's always one of those things that we're saying. So if I go on Twitter and I don't like something, I'm giving you my opinion.
Just give us yours back. That's all it is.
It's just an opinion.
The superlatives, all we're asking is the insults and the thing that says, okay, great. Yes, are there better talented individuals? Yes. But in terms of looking at it that way, when you message us, it's more validating for me because you're taking time out of your day to message us. And hey, and it's free promotion. Whenever we do it, it's great.
I think we both agree. We love the interaction.
It's great.
We can go back and forth all day long.
All we're asking for is just, we don't need the superlatives of telling us that there's people better than us. We don't really care because we got the biggest egos. We don't need, I've been on television. So, I'm a TV guy. That's all I can say.
TV guy.
I am now a reality superstar, baby. Got myself on a television show.
You and Kim Kardashian.
Listen, that is no small feat. I'm giving myself credit. Look, and the only reason why we got invited was because I'm part of a podcast. That's awesome. And I'm telling you, and it helped. Everything that we do helps the project. Downloads are up, subscribers are up, interactions up, and that's what it's about. That's why you do these things, and that's what it was all about. All we're asking is, give us the hot take, give us your opinion, give us a cold take. We don't care. All we're saying is, I don't need to hear if you think because of our take someone's better than Adam. It's kind of ridiculous. Really, in the end, it really is.
Look, man.
It's kind of funny.
If you think and you feel that way, that's cool. I know where I rank on the pantheon of sports personality.
And that's below me.
I know where I'm at.
Yeah, that's below me.
It's below John.
That's right.
So I'm somewhere real low on the totem pole.
It's
so
all good.
If there's a million track stars out there who can run laps, more power to those guys and their sweet shoes.
But that is something that's funny to me, is reading that kind of stuff, and that was really kind of funny. But in the end, no, we are tasked.
I laugh too.
Yeah, we are tasked with giving an opinion. So, we could go back, and I probably will look and see some of our opinions on previous drafts and see what we hit on and things like that. But we're in the mix, so it was good. I like that. But I think those that don't want to break down the draft or are like, oh, blah, 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 it's not fun. It doesn't make this fun to do, because when people ask me, or when they message, like, why are you asking this question? I'm like, then why are you into sports? Because that's what we do. We sit around and we make up shit and we start talking about it. Yep. That's what it is. That's the beauty of sports and podcasting. And so I'm glad that we're in the mix, and I'm glad on draft day, man, we had huge engagement. Thank you. And I really do want to thank the supporters that have messaged us and were positive, because of the fact that without you, it wouldn't have made the draft experience fun, because it was wild. We had a good time. And it was a good polarizing question. 50% liked Frank Ragnow. The other half maybe were indifferent. And a lot of people are in support of Bob Quinn. And that's all we're going to say, is we're going to keep it real. We're going to take our final time out. We'll come back and we'll play a round of the Doctors in Session. Lots to get into in the world of Detroit sports and nationally. Stay with us. Thanks again for your continued support. We greatly appreciate it. man, cuz when we look at the numbers, everything has been up. It's been great. We've been going strong since September of 2013. We've recorded 900 podcasts or so on this network, everything archived on YouTube. How can you support us? Free and easy. You don't have to take anything out of your pocket. All you got to do is go visit our website, DetroitSportsPodcast.com. The hub of the operations where you can go see what show airs when. You can take care of all your online shopping needs. Hey, you want to go buy Detroit sports tickets? You want to go to Amazon? Just click through and make one extra stop to our website. It helps keep the microphones hot, the studio lights on here in our Sterling Heights studio. We greatly appreciate the support. Visit DetroitSportsPodcast.com. Look at you, cuz, up in your GIF game. I like that one you just
like
put up
that?
there. That was good. Send me one of those.
I tagged you in it.
Yeah, it was
Doesn't that
good.
count?
Good
No,
stuff. All right, sir. This is what we call the Doctors in Session. You've lined up several great questions, and I'm ready to deliver. And what we call the Doc is in session.
But to be the man, you gotta beat the man. And I'm saying, woo, right here. I'm the man. Woo!
Man, third segment already. It just flew by.
It did. It was fun this week.
All right, so what do you make of R.J. White of CBS Sports having Shea Patterson? Yes, Michigan's newly what is it? He's now
Newly
allowed,
minted. Newly minted.
Okay, they're newly minted. He's apparently allowed to play football this season. Shea Patterson is the 4th selected quarterback in the 2019 draft. He already has a 2019 mock draft up. Anyways, he's got him going to Jacksonville with the 24th pick overall. So what do you make of this?
Yeah, man. I interviewed Steve Dace, host of the Michigan podcast. If you go check out our Twitter page, @Detroit Podcast, and we put a hilarious video where he's answering, and he found some people that said he's projected to be the first pick in the 2019. What? Yes. Check out that video. My thumbs are down. I'm frowning. It's a good video. It's a good back and forth, a healthy back and forth with Steve Dace. Check it out on our Twitter page. Look, man, that's a little early. Look, we can talk about it. You have a right to ask that question. A lot of people are hyping up Shea Patterson. Michigan fan is really happy right now. And good for you. You guys need something because being the 4th place Warrior and the placeholder for the East there in the East Division, you got to need something to kind of hype you guys up because just watching the team go to France and all their trips, you need something to be hyped about on the field. And if it's Shea Patterson, I'll give it to you. But realistically, you better be also skeptical that he's going to come out right away and start defeating your rivals. Remember, he went to Ole Miss. He had some success. He is maybe more of a prototypical quarterback that could fit in in Jim Harbaugh's system, a little bit more elusive and athletic. So you definitely are hoping that Shea Patterson can be successful. But again, I think you got to pump the brakes a little bit on all this, national title talk and those that say that he's going to come out there and go undefeated and now Jim Harbaugh can take reins of the East and nationally. Hold on. At least let's see what a spring practice would look like. Oh, it got canceled. So we don't have a chance yet to see what he does on the field. Remember, we all can play the hype game. I'm well aware of that. Really well aware of that. But in the end, you got to deliver the product. And so do I think he can? Yes. Do I think he can go out there and compete with the likes of Ohio State and Michigan State? Not yet. I do think Michigan's going to continue to roll this year. And remember, Michigan hasn't been abysmal. They've had a couple 10-win years. Last year was a step back because you had injuries, and Jim Harbaugh's got to continue to evolve. Do I think you get back to that 10-win level with Shea Patterson? I think you should be very happy. Do I think you're nationally relevant? Sorry, Michigan fan, you're not. You're not nationally relevant. Hate to say it. It's not there yet. You got to jump the hurdle and show me first. You got to beat the likes of Ohio State with a backup. Remember, Ohio State's backup quarterback rolled up on you in your house. Come on now. Their backup quarterback. So
say it one more time.
Their backup quarterback rolled up in your house and handled his business. So you're not going to convince me or anybody outside of Ann Arbor that Shea Patterson is going to roll up into Ann Arbor and make you nationally relevant. Beat Ohio State, beat Michigan State, beat your rivals, get ahead of 3rd or 2nd in the division, then we can talk. Do you have room to be excited? Yes, you do. You should be excited because he's probably better than Brandon Peters. But is he better to get you to the level of expectation that you have in your own head? Please.
Now, while I'd like to argue everything you just said,
everything I said was right.
I really can't. I could deal without you talking down to Michigan fans, but that's a different story for a different day. If he is drafted that high or higher,
Please.
or higher, what does that mean for Michigan?
That's good. I mean, I think it's really, the question that everyone's asking is, why hasn't Jim Harbaugh gotten his quarterback yet?
Yeah.
And I think if you can
I was
start
thinking
making
the same thing the other day.
start making the process easier to get bigger name quarterbacks, and they're drafted in the first round, that's a big selling point. And that's what you're trying to do. Anything at all to try to get over the hump. But right now, it's not there with Michigan just yet.
All right, the draft lottery took place this past weekend, and it didn't do the Red Wings any favors.
Man.
The Wings will be drafting 6th overall. That's one spot below where they finished if they had went by the regular season record. The Wings will have a total of 7 picks in the top 87 selections. Now, that's a lot. And 4 in the top 38. That's even better odds. What do you think they should do to ensure they get a standout player?
This is a tough one because of the fact that, yes, they've done what they needed to do to acquire the picks. Was I surprised that they fell? A little bit. I thought they just would finish at 5th and stay at the same spot, but how unlucky are the Red Wings? And it just goes to show you, when you don't know how to tank, this is what can happen. You fell. You could have gotten the 5th pick. You could have gotten the 4th pick. Hell, if you would have tanked the last 3 weeks and just played the young cats and lost every game, you might have even, been the likes of the Sabres and gotten Rasmus Dahlin. But you're not in the game. You're not. So now you got all these picks, and you go, great. Okay, let's say Ken Holland hits on them. We're not going to see him for another 7 years anyway because, Ken Holland, from what you see, I don't know if it's lip service, will say, yeah, we got to play young players, but in the end, they end up in Grand Rapids or in lower divisions. So what are they going to do? Are they going to play young cats and continue to tank? The tough part with the Red Wings is I'm not bought into any of their narratives that they're actually going to go out and tank properly. I think that what you can expect them to do is to do what they did this year, compete, get to 70 points, finish 5th, 6th worst, and that's it. You got to bottom out. The thing that they got to do is they have to hit on some of these players. By all accounts, with the 6th pick, they can maybe get an impactful defenseman or somebody that can contribute right away. But are they going to utilize them properly? Are they going to be coached up properly? If you just look at Mantha, you look at Larkin, you could argue that they could have been coached a little bit better with better management. So for me, I just would say you would rejuvenate the fan base if you let go of the GM, let go of the coach, get these draft picks, but they're not going to do it, and they're not going to start over and be, they're not going to start, anew with a new general manager. There's a comfort level there. So in the end, I'm going to be very skeptical of who Ken Holland takes just because of the fact that when you just looked at the recent draft history, it's not really all that impressive. These are the guys that are on the ice right now, and you basically got a bunch of 40-point guys you're paying a lot of money to. So it's going to be tough, and for anybody in the know, the true rebuild is not going to start until all the garbage contracts that Ken Holland doled out go off the books. So you still got to wait maybe 2 more years until those garbage contracts leave. So if you're a Wings fan, man, I'm sorry. It's going to be tough sledding for the next maybe 5 years, and it's bad. It's not good right now.
And the NFL or the NHL draft it's a weird product because there's usually 1, 2. Sometimes you'll be lucky there'll be 3 guys who are standout talents, and the rest is just a crapshoot.
Exactly.
So where the Wings are drafting right now at 6, maybe a coin flip at best that you're going to get somebody who's going to hit the ice and produce and turn it on. I would love to tell you that the Wings can sit there and package all 4 of those picks in the top 38 and move up to 1 or 2. But everybody knows that the guys at 1 or 2, those are the guys you want.
It's going to cost you a boatload.
Yeah, it's not like the NFL where you can sit there and you can move back in a draft and be like, oh my God, it's a great haul. It's not like that at all. It's the guys at 1 or 2, they're worth a lot more than 4 draft picks in the top 38.
Tough times for hockey fans in town, man. It's tough.
Is.
And then you see the excitement over there in Vegas and the passion in the playoffs.
God, they're so
Tampa
good
Bay,
too, dude.
Boston, Washington, Nashville.
Vegas is so much fun to watch.
It's tough, man. It hurts the heart to sit and watch a hockey game and you go, man, the Wings aren't even close. They're not even in, Vegas's class. Please.
All right. How close are you to giving up on the Daniel Norris experiment? This is off the precipice of him most likely going on the 60-day DL. I don't believe it's been confirmed yet, but that's what Gardenhire was talking about the other night. And this is a question that was posed the other day in a producers meeting that I was at. And it's just like, are you done? Are you ready to wave the white flag on this guy?
No, because of the fact he's left-handed. He's got, arm speed. He's got talent. The problem is it's a little bit more mental, and now he can't stay healthy. That's a big problem. And so when you ask the question, how close are you to giving up on the Daniel Norris experiment? Right now, I'm off the bandwagon. 60 days, okay. When he comes back, when he needs a lot of work to be consistent, and it takes time. I understand that we got to be a little bit patient, but in this day and age, it's starting to be a little bit questionable regarding what the level of success Daniel Norris can have is, because whenever you're dealing with mental issues and health issues, it's always a ticking time bomb. It always is. It's always going to be there, in that when is his arm speed going to come back? Because the fastball prior to his injury was like at 90 miles an hour. It was glaring. And the big knock on Daniel Norris is his mental game is pretty soft right now, in that if he doesn't get a call to go his way, if he has a couple bad innings, that's why they decided to move him to the bullpen, was that they maybe didn't believe at this point in time in his career he could go 7 innings without melting down. And you put him in the bullpen, what kind of mental character you got to have to go in the bullpen, because they could call on you at the drop of a hat, and you got to go out there and get outs. You can't ease into a game, whereas a starter, you could give up maybe a run or two early, like Justin Verlander did at the tail end of his time in Detroit, where he kind of eased into games quite a bit of times, and then if you have a good offense, you're okay. In the bullpen, you might be called upon with runners at second and third, nobody out. Do the job. Get the guys out. Right now, do I count on Daniel Norris? No. I think right now you can start probably looking towards the odds being that he's going to be a bust.
All right, sticking with the Tigers, what do you think the likelihood of Jose Iglesias being traded to the Dodgers after they lost their shortstop, Corey Seager, for the year?
Problem is, Jose Iglesias has got to bat a little bit better. He's got to kind of turn that thing around offensively to kind of have a little bit of heat behind him. He is probably a likely candidate to be traded, but the question is not where he's going to be traded, but what you're going to get back for him. So we kind of got to wait a little bit till his stock is a little bit higher, because like we said, defensively he's okay, offensively struggling just a little bit for the Tigers. And so what logistically could you get in return for him? Maybe a third, fourth round pick, something like that. You don't see maybe an everyday starter right now coming back in return for Jose Iglesias. You're going to ask for, similarly to all these trades, a prospect, and it's probably going to be somebody that is not going to pan out. That's just the way it is with these trades. So I would say wait, hold up a little bit, invite more teams in to be able to bid so that you can drive the price up a little bit more. And though you might be able to get maybe somebody from the roster of the Dodgers, but right now the Dodgers are scuffling. They got issues galore. They're struggling. They have a couple guys that are injured, and I think they had a pitcher now also go out that's going to need Tommy John surgery. A guy that was key, similar, on the level of a Clayton Kershaw. So they got some major issues. I just don't see right now that the return could be better is if you just held on, waited until the deadline, and maybe a little bit after the All-Star break, drive up that price and get the most you can get. So I think that's what they're going to do. I don't think they do it right now.
The way it helps is you remove some of that log jam that the Tigers have at that position, because Al Avila apparently loves shortstops.
Yeah.
We've got like 15 of them. So it kind of, that's one piece gone, so you can move the next guy up. But I get what you're saying. Drive the price up, maximize the return, try to get the best value you can get. All right, this is a hot story. News broke late Tuesday afternoon, evening. What do you think of the Stan Van Gundy reports that the front office changes are coming? Currently, it's being reported that Gores wants Stan to coach the team and only coach the team while they overhaul the front office. It's believed that Jeff Bowers, the Pistons GM, will be let go, or rather not extended, as his contract is set to expire. Does Stan stay with the Pistons, or does he go when Jeff Bowers goes?
Yeah, I think right now what you're hearing is they want Stan Van to coach the team, but they want Jeff Bauer to be gone and some changes to the front office. So they want to strip Stan Van of his title and things like that. And so a lot of people have debated it. They're saying, well, is this a power play by Tom Gores, knowing that if you strip Stan Van of his power, he's prideful, and knowing that, hey, if you got to blow out Jeff Bauer, that's going to really sting Stan Van. He might just have to walk away. That's a realistic option if Stan Van doesn't come back. But knowing the Pistons in the ass-backwards way sometimes they do things, you think that, okay, maybe Stan comes back, but if he comes back, he's going to need an extension. So I'm thinking that, because of the way the Pistons run things, Stan could come back as coach and then with another one-year extension added to it. But, what do I think of it? I think it shows that Tom Gores is out of his league in terms of running the Pistons. This is a 5-minute decision that you're dragging on 2-3 weeks. What are you waiting for?
2 weeks, it said that they discussed this. What are you talking about for 2 weeks?
It's like, I need a decision tomorrow, bro.
You own the team.
It's simple. I'm like, okay, Stan, we need changes. Jeff Bauer, got to go. We need you to just coach the team, and we're going to have this in place. It's now 12:30. Hit me up tomorrow at 4. Talk to you later. That's it, 24 hours.
It.
That's all you need.
That's it.
Stan only needs a couple hours, 2 weeks.
And if Stan doesn't like that, too bad.
It's like a Hollywood way of doing things.
It's like, I own this team. It's my team. I will do what I want. Does this come off to you as a little bit cheap, maybe? Like Gores doesn't want to pay
to fire him.
Yeah,
he wants him to walk away.
Doesn't want to pay a coach while he brings another coach in.
I hope that the first thing that I discussed is true.
Which is asinine to me if that's the case.
I hope it's true. I hope that they're trying to force Dan Van out. Cuz when I just look at it, talking, Wings and Pistons back to back, the only thing I can think about is they're stale. They're beyond stale. Like, when you go and you're hungry, you're craving these chips, and you go, yes, I got the Doritos, and you take a bite, and you're like, oh, you left them in the freaking cupboard too long, and they're stale, and you're like, you get that, gross feeling. You're like, man, we need something new. Nothing like a brand new bag of Doritos. You open it up, that crisp smell. Oh, nothing better. The Wings and Pistons talking about it doesn't give me all warm, fuzzy
Doc
feelings.
likes the cheese smell.
Yeah. It's stale, isn't it? It's just talking about it's put me in a foul mood. They're stale.
They are stale.
They're stale, and there's no hope for success. Because look,
exactly.
It's like you need new regimes. How do you, as a Red Wing management, how do you, as Chris Ilitch, look at the Wings and go, let's just keep it all the same? Same head coach, same general manager. After the last 2 years you had, okay, and then you got the Pistons, and you go within one game of watching Donovan Mitchell in the postseason, you're like, dude, our roster's terrible.
Yep.
And then you got a roster next year that has a lot of holes. And here's the problem: many people in the know don't think realistically that the big three are going to play together all 82 games in the playoffs. There's a high risk of injury, a high risk that one of the three is not going to perform at the level that we want, and the team's a mess. So start over, blow this out, and thank you, Stan Van, for taking the job, but you didn't do the job that we wanted. There's a lot of negatives. It's just the drafting's been bad, the coaching's been bad. Great. You were able to kind of flip guys for some better guys, but then the ultimate move, the all-in move, is to get Blake Griffin. That's just not the move. And so the Pistons and Wings are stale, and we got to find ways to make them relevant, but the way they're going about it, it's not helping.
It sucks. They have a beautiful facility there at the LCA for at least the next 2, 3, maybe even up to 5 years. It's going to be a horrible product.
Playing in it.
Yes. It's going to be bad, dude.
That's just the way it is, man. That's just the way it is. Man, that's the way it is.
This is a good podcast.
Very good. Very enjoyable. It flew by. Thanks to Chris Burke joining us from The Athletic. We greatly appreciate it. We'll continue to watch the draft and what goes on in training camp and things like that, OTAs. Fun time for the podcast. Football's right around the corner. And obviously, we'll break down Michigan State football. It's going to be a fun spring, man. And then obviously, we'll peek into the Tigers and what they're doing. Their swoon is a little bit concerning.
Absolutely. And remember, save yourself some money. If you want to get The Athletic, go to theathletic.com and use the keyword DSP. Save yourself some ka-ching there.
You got it. For the Jock, Adam Strozinski, I am the Doc, John Macaroon. Thank you for tuning in to the latest episode on our podcast. We greatly appreciate it.
Go Vegas Knights, because you guys play a really fun brand of hockey.
This was locker room talk.
Second deck.
Sorry, Detroit. Didn't quite work out.
And all I can say is Detroit Sports Podcast scores.
I have voices in my head. They counsel me. They understand. They talk to me. They talk to me. They tell me things that I will do. They show me